For you guys. 7:34 into the KUAM News Zoom room we go, where we have Vanessa Williams, who is standing by. She is the chair of the Cannabis Control Board. Good morning, Vanessa.
Morning, Chris.
So there was a meeting yesterday, right?
Yes, there was. We had a meeting yesterday afternoon at 1 o'clock.
Right on. And so can we anticipate any, was it like the rules and regs are at the AG's office, right, for cannabis?
Yeah, so that's where we are in the process. We had a bit of an update yesterday, or in the past couple weeks, but we were able to discuss it at the board meeting yesterday. Part of the process is that the governor and her office has to review the proposed rules, the rules that the board is proposing, and approve them as to policy. And so we did get confirmation and approval from the governor within the past couple weeks. And that's something that the AG's office needed before they could proceed and in their part of the process. And they have completed their review of the rules and have started to give us feedback on and comments on those rules before they will sign off on them and before we can submit them to the legislature.
Was there anything in particular that they were concerned about with the proposed rules and regs that you guys need to go back and maybe change or amend?
There are a couple categories of items, and like within those categories, there'll probably be quite a few changes, but most of it related to terminology and in terms of readability of the rules. So the comments they had are really coming from the perspective of both the enforcement side. So when the agencies are looking at this and seeing, okay, what rules apply to a retailer or a cultivator, where can I find this in one section or maybe just two sections in the rules as opposed to scattered throughout. So some of it was like organizational things and then terminology, for example, using either cultivator or grower and not using them interchangeably, so it's not confusing. And then also those suggestions were made based on the fact that if you're applying for a license, it's going to be confusing as to, what applies to you. That was a suggestion that it would be difficult for any layperson to say, okay, I want to get a cultivator's license or a manufacturer's license, but I'm looking like throughout the entire hundreds or 130 page rule book to figure out which ones apply to me, as opposed to the intent where we have like a certain chapter or article apply to each of them. There was also some concern about how to handle the cannabis that's possessed that isn't by a licensee, someone who's broke the rules and they're practicing without a license, or they are licensed but they aren't in compliance, and what to do with that cannabis, because it's illegally cultivated, but it's not criminal anymore.
Yeah.
So the normal criminal like seizure and forfeiture rules would not apply. So that's something that I'm waiting to hear back from the Attorney General's office on how we should address and handle.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I'd be willing to accept all that cannabis if it was ever an issue.
I'm sorry?
Never mind, Vanessa. I wanted to ask, because I had a question here, and it's relative to someone who's staying in an apartment. I don't know if you can help out. Is it legal for an apartment tenant to plant marijuana within the premises if a tenant smokes marijuana out on his balcony, but the smoke drifts out to the adjoining units and bothers the non-smokers of marijuana? What are the rights of the other tenants and or landlord?
Wow. Okay, so I just want to give the caveat. So I sit on the Cannabis Control Board, and we're not necessarily advisors, and I'm in this awkward position where I happen to be a lawyer and I can't be giving legal advice to people who aren't my clients. But what I can, so I don't know like the exact, I don't want to give the exact answer to that question, but what I can say is that the rules prohibit smoking in well, not just the rules, but the law prohibits smoking in public places. And you need, like, in order, I think for personal cannabis consumption, you have to have, it's usually within your own home or where you have authority. So I don't know how, there might be some issues there if you're renting. So I can tell you what the issues are, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what
that's
this
fine. Just generally, very generally speaking, I guess.
Yeah, and then in terms of, yeah, I don't know. Like, it would seem to be a problem if you're smoking even on your balcony and the smoke is drifting to other people's personal space. I mean, the intent, I think, of the Natasha Act, right, which preceded the Cannabis Control or Cannabis Industry Act by like many years, or is that people, shouldn't suffer the consequences of other people's smoke.
I wanted to go back to the proposed rules and regs and the amendments and the changes that you were talking about. So what happens? You guys, the Cannabis Board goes back and makes these changes, then it goes back to the AG's office or the governor's office for review, or what happens next? And how long is it going to take?
You would submit those changes to the AG's office for review, and they would hopefully, the process should be they approve it, based on the recommendations, and then it gets transmitted to the legislature.
So how long you think that's
another
going
year?
to take? Yeah.
I really pray not. It's supposed to be, so I still need more feedback from the AG's office, but they've committed to do that in the next few weeks. And the board has committed to review all of that feedback from the AG's office, and the respective agencies propose their amendments all within August. So we've committed to do it by August. So assuming all those things happen, then that's when we'll submit to the legislature by the end of August.
And then when it goes to the legislature, do they need to pass this, or take a vote and all of that?
I believe they have 90 days to take action to approve or disapprove, and I'm not sure if they will have a hearing as well.
And then after the 90 days, if they don't vote on it, does it just lapse?
I believe so. I believe that was the case. I don't know if there's been any, changes in how that process works.
So what do you think are, well, obviously there's going to be some big changes, but comparing today to tomorrow when the stuff goes into effect after the legislature votes on it, how soon are we going to see, the grow ops and the licenses and all that?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping pretty soon with the timing of things. So the other parts that are moving is that we have to have a seed to sale program. And I see the seed to sale program is procured, and it's by the government of Guam, by the regulatory agencies. So it would be public health is in the middle of that RFP. I believe just yesterday they closed like the pickup of applications or pickup of the RFPs for vendors. They said they've got like 12 to 15 potential proposers or bidders. And so that RFP, that seed to sale program needs to be procured under the procurement process through public health. And that needs to be operating in order to manage these licensees, and then in the interim, Department of Agriculture, Department of Revenue and Taxation, and then Public Health are also developing their forms and their applications for the licensees. So ideally, once these rules pass, sometime before the end of the year, you're going to have application forms available and ready for people to pick up and start completing, and then you'll have a seed to sale program software system that can track these applicants and licensees.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, that's actually, I just pulled it up actually on Public Health's website, and the deadline, I believe, is today, 5 p.m. And maybe just what exactly,
Deadline
I'm so sorry, for this procurement for the cannabis seed to sale system and professional services for public health.
Yeah, I also I saw that they had a couple job announcements relative to the cannabis program a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely requires some capacity building at these agency levels. Because the board is just oversight. We develop these rules and we ultimately review and approve or deny applications, but it requires the people power to at the agencies who are actually going to be interfacing with applicants and licensees and actually inspecting the premises and verifying all the information in their application before it gets submitted to the board.
Vanessa, just to clarify, because in talking to people, there still seems to be, and I know you have clarified this back when we had you on, but there seems to be a lot of people who think that when these rules and regs pass, that you're going to be able to go online and order, cannabis gummies from wherever, Colorado or the States, or hash, and ship it to Guam. That isn't the case, though, right?
No. So the rules and regs for, adult use cannabis in Guam aren't going to affect anything that you can do online and yeah, what you can bring in, because we don't have any control over that. So that would be, I think, at the federal level, like until you get it decriminalized across the country by Congress, then you're not going to be able to have that crossing state or territorial lines. What it's going to do is it's just going to permit Guam businesses to apply for business licenses and cannabis licenses to either grow, sell, test cannabis, or to manufacture a cannabis product like those gummies. But it's within our borders.
Right. That's going to be interesting. So everything from seed to sale will be conducted here on island.
Yes.
Are you done with that?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we could shift gears because I got an email from an individual. I believe he's your client, Mr. Lubofsky. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this lawsuit or this complaint that was filed in the Superior Court related to the Patient Protection Act. And I believe this was enacted in 2010 or 2011, some time ago. But basically, it kind of points out the Guam Board of Medical Examiners and maybe even the Allied Health Professionals Board lack of implementing that law. With regard to posting information about disciplined doctors on a website. Can you tell us a little bit more about this lawsuit or this complaint?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, is that this complaint or this lawsuit is called a mandamus lawsuit. So the complaint is the petition is petitioning the court to issue a writ of mandate, which means that you're asking a government or official entity, in this case the Board of Medical Examiners and the Allied Health Board, to comply with the law. So you're saying there's a law on the books that says that they have to do a specific thing. And a petition for writ of mandate says, Judge, they aren't doing that specific thing. There's no discretion about it. Please order them to do so. And so that's what the lawsuit boils down to. And in this case, what we're asking them to do is to comply with the requirement by law that has to post this information about doctors, healthcare professionals online for the public to see, and then to have certain rules and regulations related to the investigation of complaints for their made by people to the boards. It doesn't tell them like how to do it, how to post these things, or how to investigate complaints. There's no authority for that. It just says, please do it, or Judge, please order them to do it. And ideally, there would be some type of time frame for them to comply, so it's not indefinite. Because I'm sure the intent is always, yeah, we want to do it, we just don't have time or money. And the lawsuit is the incentive, the mandate, and the writ of mandate is the requirement from the court saying, okay, you just have to do it now.
So I believe this was filed in June, right? Last month.
Yeah, June 15th.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any other filings or response or hearing scheduled or anything like that?
No official response or filings from the respondents yet. There has just been, I think, yesterday or the day before, we just got notice that the court will have the first hearing on August 10th. The boards, the counsel for the boards has been served. They're aware. I believe they discussed it at their last meetings a bit. And so, but we haven't had any official response on how, whether they will consent to the petition and agree, yeah, we have to do this and this is when we're going to do it, which is possible, or if they're going to oppose it. We haven't received any of that yet by way of what they would file an answer, and perhaps we can see that by August 10th.
Was there, I guess, can you provide any other information regarding, kind of what brought this on? Why? Because this has been on the books, I want to say, for years.
Yeah, it has.
This particular law. Just kind of what was the...
What was the impetus for the filing of your case?
Right. So, like, client, the petitioner in this case is David Lubofsky, and it's really brought in, on behalf or prompted by the loss of his son Asher, his 5-year-old son, and so after Mr. Lubofsky has filed several complaints to the boards, and there doesn't seem to be a clear path for investigation or process, where you can see, okay, these are the rules and this is what's going to happen. For example, the complainant or the person complaining will receive a response against who they're complaining, or some type of, and will be able to speak with the investigator or the board. There's just no clear process because there aren't rules that say this is what happens when you submit this complaint. And this is, this is a patient issue, a transparency issue too. The complaints and other information are also supposed to, not the complaints rather, but any discipline and information about these healthcare professionals are also supposed to be reported online by the board and by law. And so this is kind of unrelated to that complaint, but it's also a, patient safety issue. Yeah. And so prompted, is by this process, he wanted to ensure that, regardless of what happens to his complaint, that anyone who goes through this process is going to know that they were heard, that it was investigated properly, and that they will, be responded to in a timely manner, because he's had, so it's just been haphazard with the complaints that he's filed over the years, and with other people too, who aren't part of this lawsuit, but that have come to light where they just feel frustrated, feel unheard, and they don't feel protected by these boards, that no one's, speaking on their behalf. So that's really where this lawsuit came from.
Was there a moment where you kind of looked at it and said, holy mac, this thing has been on the book since 2012 and there hasn't been nothing done? I mean, because it's pretty egregious that this, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's other laws, but I mean, something as simple as this couldn't be stood up. I mean, it's a website. Who doesn't have a website? Some agencies have 3 websites.
Yeah. Now, websites, it does. And I think I've seen just out there, and the legislature's website, out there in the media, that there has been like effort or at some point in the past, years past, saying, oh yeah, we want to get that, but we need money. But I think that I don't know what, where they were looking or what what the process was back then, but we know now it's, it takes virtually nothing to post things online, and to get up a very basic functional space. And we know that there's, there are websites for public health, there is, domain space out there that they could just post this information. So it really seems that more than cost, it's really just an efforts issue and being motivated. So we're hoping that's what this lawsuit will do, is motivate them to do that.
Right.
And make it a priority.
Vanessa, can you just kind of clarify the requirements of this law and this disclosure on the website? Is it just for complaints that have actually been and investigations that have been completed where action has been taken, or is it just notification? Yeah.
Right.
Well, this complaint was filed.
Yeah.
You know, where the allegation is made against a physician.
Right. So it's not just any complaint. Like, so the complaints and the investigations that we're talking about are kind of separate. That's like a separate request to the court, aside from what we're asking about the website. The website is just to post what is required by law. Not every complaint that is made against a professional, because these could be, not validated. It's just what the law currently requires. And I think that would only be if they were if they were disciplined in other jurisdictions, if these things were validated, and just information about those doctors.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of similar to the National Practitioners Data Bank, but that particular data bank is not really open to the public.
Right.
Is that what you're kind of saying?
No. This is the information that's required to be open to the public. The website,
Mm-hmm.
or it doesn't have to be a separate website. It can be an existing website for public health, but it's just information about the doctors that is already required by law, by Guam law.
Yeah,
Right.
and we have seen some very public instances where doctors with track records and complaints against them have come to Guam and set up shop here. But with this website and the posting not being followed through, there's no way the public would know. So thanks.
So you said August 10th is the hearing, first hearing.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, for that update.
Yeah. Anything else? What other hats are you wearing that we can ask about?
New mom, got a brand new baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Like I don't have enough to do.
Right on.
Healthy baby.
All right. Well, congrats.
Happy liberation, everyone.
Happy
All right.
liberation.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Take care.
Okay, bye. There you go, Vanessa Williams. Yeah, she was like, I got to get a sitter for tomorrow. So pending sitter. Oh, come on. That's pretty interesting.